Hello everyone and welcome to Retail Archaeology. In this week's episode, we'll be returning to the Elcon Center, or what was originally the Elcon Mall, and specifically we'll be taking a look at the JCPenney here. Now, where we're standing is where the Elcon Mall used to exist, and you can see on the front of the JCPenney here where they actually cut the mall away from this building and just preserved the JCPenney when they redid everything else here. The Elcon Mall opened in Tucson, Arizona in 1960, and this JCPenney was added in 1971. The whole mall was demolished in 2015 and converted to a power center, except for this JCPenney location. This JCPenney is the last little existing part of the old Elcon Mall. And you can see here the building has not been doing well since it was cut away from the mall. It's literally crumbling. It's been about 3 years since I've been here. I did a video back in 2017 on this, what was left of this mall and this JCPenney, and this one actually was listed in the latest batch of closures as one of these stores that's closing, and when we were here filming there were 10 days left for this store. I think this section at the back of the store used to be like a garden center or something, but you can see they're just storing tons of old fixtures out here. There's also a lot of that bird netting that they put in to try and keep the birds out, but it's falling apart and really kind of non-existent at this point. I'm curious as to why all of these fixtures are out here and not part of the fixture sale that's going on inside the store. Maybe these are fixtures that have to go back to vendors. Now, before we go check out the JCPenney on the inside and get more into some of the recent news about them, I wanted to check out this last little thing on the outside here. This building that we're looking at here, this Elcon Leasing Management Office, this is also another little part of the old mall that still exists. And there's this weird little forgotten alcove that's kind of tucked away in between the JCPenney and that security and leasing building. And I had to see if the old graffiti was still in here. Now, this piece is new. That wasn't here in 2017. There is a lot of bird crap back here because there's a lot of bird nests up in the corners of the walls. But as we take a look further into this little alcove, we can see that that old graffiti is still here. Some of this looks like it dates back to the late 90s. And I just love seeing stuff like this. I've always loved this stupid guy with his tongue sticking out. And I'm glad to see that this is still here. And obviously this little area is still forgotten about. That whole doorbell thing cracks me up too. It works, it doesn't work, it works again. It's cool to see all this silliness still here because I don't think this building's going to survive much longer. Once that JCPenney is closed, I don't think that building's going to be reusable. Like I said, it's just kind of old and falling apart. I don't think this area has been cleaned since the late 90s. Now let's head into the store through the only set of doors that were open. When JCPenney filed for bankruptcy in May, things were looking pretty bleak for them. They had really struggled for a lot of years. The last profitable year they had was all the way back in 2010. When they filed their bankruptcy, they announced they were looking for buyers for their business, and I was really skeptical that anyone would want to purchase JCPenney with how terribly they had been doing, and I really kind of expected them to go the way of Sears. Even though Sears is still kind of around, they're going to be gone very soon, and I figured the same was true for JCPenney. However, it was just recently announced that they found a buyer, or buyers actually. Simon Property Group and Brookfield Property Partners are both going in to purchase JCPenney's operations, and that actually kind of makes sense. They're both huge mall operators, and they've been constantly losing anchors at malls all over the United States, so I'm sure they're very motivated to try and save a flagship anchor like JCPenney. Unfortunately, all of that good news has come too late to save a lot of their stores like this one at the Elcon Center. I always thought it was kind of creepy looking when they group up all the unused mannequins there. Oh, hi Mark. But yeah, it kind of reminds me of that movie I, Robot, where you see all the old discarded robots huddling together in those cargo containers. It's kind of sad and creepy. The price tag on this purchase deal is also kind of surprising to me. They're purchasing JCPenney's retail and operating assets for about $1.75 billion. That's a lot more than I expected them to get, to be honest. Besides the deal for the purchase of their operations, JCPenney also announced that they'll be taking 161 of their real estate assets and own distribution centers and putting them into their own separate real estate investment trust. That trust will be owned by JCPenney's lenders, and they'll lease back those properties from the trust. JCPenney is touting all of this as saving about 690 stores and 60,000 jobs. JCPenney also said they plan on emerging from Chapter 11 bankruptcy sometime during the holiday shopping season, so fairly soon. All of these deals still have to be approved by the bankruptcy court. They do have a hearing scheduled on November 2nd to start that process, so we should be hearing things pretty soon. It really does feel like there's still a lot of stock left here, even though the store is closing down for good in 10 days. I was kind of surprised. Usually when I go into stores that only have, less than 2 weeks left of their liquidation sale, most of the product is gone, and it's really mostly just the fixtures and things that are still for sale. But there's still a lot of stuff here. I think there were makeup counters behind those black tarps. They're probably not liquidating that stuff. It probably has to just all go back to the vendors. I haven't been to a lot of closing JCPenney stores recently, so I'm wondering if this is kind of the same thing that's going on at all of them, where they're having a hard time liquidating, or if this is just kind of a one-off thing at this store. It's kind of surreal being here 3 years later after I did that first video on this place. I went back and watched that video, and besides noticing how shaky my camera work was back then, it looked like the store was so small and tiny in that video because it was just so packed full of products and everything, but now there's huge empty sections like this one, and it just seems so much bigger now and spacious. I also wondered in that video, how much longer this particular location has, and we've gotten that answer now. It was 3 years. It's amazing how unupdated this store looks. This looks just like a JCPenney that I would walk into when I was a kid. Now this location is 2 floors, but there's a basement instead of a second floor, and I really don't like that. I always feel like the basements are super claustrophobic. And of course they gotta have the obligatory sign saying we're looking forward to seeing you again, and listing the couple of JCPenney stores that are still open in Tucson. See what I mean though? Walking through this section, it doesn't even look like a liquidation is going on, except for the fact that there's signs everywhere, but there's still lots of clothes and things. Let's take a trip down to the basement though and see what's going on down there. And I don't think I rode in this elevator when we were here the first time. I think we used the escalators, but those were broken down or at least turned off at this point. And I have to say, this is a really, really old looking elevator. Even the buttons were super clicky when I pressed it. It was also huge. It was almost like a freight elevator. I really wonder what they're going to do with this building after this store closes down permanently. It's very old, and it is the last existing structure from the old Elcon Mall. I have to imagine they're going to probably tear this down and build some sort of new big box store here to match the rest of the power center. Do you see what I mean about department store basements though? They're always just kind of so claustrophobic feeling, and things just don't seem as bright and airy as they do up on the top floor. I wonder if those pictures of kids wearing shoes are for sale. They probably are. Usually almost everything is for sale on one of these liquidation sales when they're clearing out all the fixtures and everything. This sign over here cracked me up, this boys husky section. I didn't know they still use the term husky for chubby boy clothes. They also had a salon at this JCPenney, and weirdly enough, it was down in the basement. Usually when JCPenney stores have salons, they usually have like an outside door into them, but this one didn't. And now it's completely empty. Now this is a lovely Christmas arrangement. Even though a lot of the news recently about JCPenney seems optimistic, I'm not really so sure if the company is quote unquote saved. I think they're saved for at least a few years, and they are probably going to outlast Sears at this point, but I think they're going to have a really hard uphill battle to fight. I think the store is a good example of that too. With only 10 days of the liquidation left, there really is a lot of stuff still left here. And I don't know how well that bodes for them with the stores that they're keeping open and getting footfall into those stores. Gotta say, I've never seen a PGA mannequin before. That is a whole shot full of mannequin booty. I think it's also a pretty big gamble for two of the biggest mall operators to take. Obviously, if this doesn't play out for them well, it's not going to play out well for their malls either. It's also interesting to see the mall operators work so hard to save JCPenney when they didn't seem to really lift a finger at all when it came to Sears. And also, what does that mean for other department stores? There are other department stores that are struggling, like Macy's, for example. Are they going to step in and try and rescue them as well in a few years? Malls are very dependent on anchor stores, and these department stores are very dependent on malls as well, so it seems kind of precarious to put all of those eggs into one basket. If this goes well, it may be part of the bigger blueprint to save malls, but if this goes badly, it may accelerate the death of a lot of them. Man, even these escalators look old. We were able to take the escalator back up as this one wasn't turned off, but the down escalator was. But we're back up to the first floor now, and again, I just gotta say, I'm just shocked at how much stuff is still here. Maybe apparel is one of the weaker sectors for JCPenney anymore. I know a lot of people aren't spending money on clothes right now, so maybe that's part of the problem. But a good chunk of their store is apparel and shoes and things like that. I mean, I'm shocked to see how many shoes are still here. That's usually one of the first sections that are wiped out in a department store liquidation. Maybe now that the discounts are down to, between 75 and 90%, a lot of this stuff cleared out in the last 10 days. Unfortunately, I don't know. So if you live in Tucson, you'll have to tell me if you do know. I did see pictures recently of the JCPenney letters being taken off the building a few days ago, so it looks like they're moving pretty quickly to debrand this and get it empty. I have to wonder what could possibly move into this spot. Like I said, I think the building's too old to reuse at this point, and if you did reuse it, the only thing that would really make sense in here is another department store. But this shopping center already has a Target and a Walmart. I think it has a Ross. There's a Home Depot here. Pretty much everything you would buy at a department store, you can already buy at a nicer, newer store at the shopping center. The good news is that it seems like, at least for the time being, JCPenney has avoided completely collapsing, but I'm still really not sure what their future prospects look like. And also, it's important to remember that none of this has been approved by the bankruptcy court yet, so we'll just have to wait till the beginning of November to hear what happens. But what are your thoughts on JCPenney? Do you feel like they're saved, or they have any sort of long-term future? Let me know down in the comments below. As always, everyone, thanks for watching. Want to see your name here? Head on over to patreon.com/Retail Archaeology to find out how you can help support the channel. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out my update video on JCPenney and the El Con Center in Tucson, Arizona. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and also make sure to follow at the social media links down there, because that's the best way to keep up with what's going on with the channel.